Hi, I'm Ellie and I'm just going to tell you today a little about my workshop on hips and lower back, which is happening this Saturday from 2 to 4 online through the Secret Space. The reason why I've chosen to do this workshop is because sort of stiffness or pain in the lower back and the hips are very common, especially for people who have to sit a lot, but it could also be due to injuries. And generally speaking, in the West, we tend to not use our hips enough, so we tend to keep the legs in what we call a neutral position, which means they're sort of more in this position. And when we don't work so much with that external and internal rotation, which helps to keep the hips nice and open, and that then often has an effect on the lower back, so causing tightness in the lower back. Also, a weaker core can mean that we don't support the lower back and maybe the hips enough. So the workshop is really aimed at anyone. You don't have to be a yoga practitioner. We're going to work with very specific exercises to mobilize and strengthen the hips, to strengthen the core to help protect the lower back, and also to strengthen the back. So they're going to be very slow exercises that we do at the beginning. Then we're going to move on to work with some of the yoga asanas with a specific focus on keeping the back safe, the lower back safe, how to open and extend into the hips in various asanas, and also how to move mindfully so that we constantly tap back into that inner support that we can access in our inner core. So we're going to end with looking at revisiting some of the asanas or exercises that each one of you would like to remember to do at home so that you can sort of help yourself, and I will be watching you. So this is all going to happen via Zoom online. I'm aiming to also record the session so people can take it and watch it a little bit later. Now I'm just going to show you one of the exercises that we're going to work with just as an example, and this is for the hips, for mobilizing and strengthening the hips. And for that we're going to come and lie on the side, bending the elbow, and the idea here is that you try and line up the body so that in this case the right shoulder is over the right hip, and make sure the knees are in front of the hips. And then I always talk about this idea of drawing the navel in so the core is slightly engaged, but also you're not overly back arching. And then you're going to extend the right leg, and you're going to try and take the right leg slightly back without arching the back. So keep drawing the navel in, rib cage in, flexing the foot, and you're going to inhale, lift, exhale, lower. So that right hand can be in front to help stabilize the body in the side position, or you can bring your right hand on your right hip. That's a really nice way to notice or feel the muscles in the hips working. And then from here we're going to move into circles. So what we're doing here essentially is we're mobilizing and strengthening the muscles that surround the hips. So really the muscles around your buttocks, or in your buttocks. Go in the opposite way when you're ready. So we're taking that rotation, taking the leg around in circles, and if you imagine the top of the leg bone sits inside the hip socket, so this is a way to mobilize the hips. And then we're going to move on to take knee to knee, lifting the foot, and then heel to heel, lifting the knee. And essentially what we're doing here is when we take knee to knee, we're rotating the leg inwards, and when we take heel to heel, we're rotating the leg outwards. So we're working with that internal and external rotation that we maybe don't do enough of in everyday life. So really mobilizing, but still also strengthening the muscles around the hips. And then we do that last one, which looks really easy, but it's actually really strong. Heel to heel, big toe to big toe, heel to heel, big toe to big toe. And what this one does is a smaller movement that goes a little bit deeper into the muscles that are lower or sort of further inside, closer to the joint, the hip joint. Those muscles often, it's a little bit more difficult to access them and they can get very tight. So piriformis is an example of one of the muscles that can get very tight. It's deeply embedded underneath the bigger muscles like the gluteus maximus, the gluteus medius, but we still need to try and access that, mobilize and strengthen, and then release. And then we give the hip a little bit of a massage, and then of course we'd repeat everything on the other side. So that was just an example, just to give you an idea of the pace, which at the beginning would be very slow, very precise. And then when we work in the asanas, we will spend a little bit more time warming the body as well. So hopefully that will give you a little bit of an idea of the workshop for Saturday 2 to 4. Thank you, bye.